Assalamu alaikum. Very warm welcome with another edition of Diplomatic Enclave from Channel 5. And today it's a great pleasure for me that His Excellency Ambassador of European Union, Excellency Coutan, is with me. I very warm welcome to you, sir, in my program.
Good afternoon. I'm very happy to be with you this afternoon.
And we, as you know, that European Union and Pakistan have very cordial and very warm relations. And we have seen that the cooperation is increasing with the passage of time. Excellency, can you briefly tell us with your career and your stay when you were here in Peshawar in 90s? So how do you feel here when you resume as the ambassador to Pakistan of EU? So what are you feeling here?
That is a long time ago, actually. It was in 94 to 99. I stayed in Peshawar. At that time, I was a aid worker, working with an NGO, which actually was implementing projects inside Afghanistan. And the projects were aimed at helping Afghan refugees to go back from Pakistan, from the refugee camps in Pakistan, back to Afghanistan. But my main office at that time was in Peshawar. So I have a certain, let's say, knowledge about, at that time, NWFP, and obviously of Afghanistan, but I'm very pleased to be now based here in Islamabad, posted in Islamabad, in Pakistan, and to deal with Pakistan on aiming at improving, strengthening relationship between Pakistan and the European Union.
And Excellency, you assume as ambassador recently here. So what are your impression about Pakistan and its people, you know?
What I've seen as big changes for me in Pakistan over the last, I would say, 20 years, you know, when I was coming to Islamabad, for example, on a regular basis, or traveling a little bit in the country, is how the country is much more now connected. I mean, all these, you know, big motorways and highways did not exist at that time. I well remember, you know, I was still using the GT road from Peshawar to Islamabad, which was not always easy actually to be on it. But now it's easy. I mean, to go to Peshawar, it's what, less than 2 hours. And I think that is a big change. I think it proves also how Pakistan now is starting developing and how it can help, obviously, the economy of Pakistan to develop.
Excellency, European Union holds a very important position in the world. How you describe relation with Pakistan, and what are your further plans to promote these bilateral relations?
I think what we have seen is how over the last years how our relationship have developed with Pakistan. We have now what we call the 5-year engagement plan with Pakistan, which signed in 2012, running until 2017, and it will be another agreement after that. And I think that has really fostered the relationship between Pakistan and the EU, because we have now regular dialogues with Pakistan on different issues, political dialogues, dialogues on counter-terrorism, dialogue on migration. It has also fostered our cooperation with Pakistan. We have doubled our support in terms of assistance to Pakistan in 2014. We have now also new trade relationship. I'm sure that we will discuss that under the GSP Plus with Pakistan. So clearly over the last years we have seen an increase in terms of our relationship with Pakistan, and I hope that I will be in position not only to continue that but also even to strengthen that further.
Sir, can you briefly tell us that in December 2013 EU has granted much awaited duty market free access under the GSP Plus. So how do you see this GSP Plus status given to Pakistan? And do you think that our trade volume will be increased by this GSP Plus status?
It's a GSP Plus actually has been granted to 10 countries, including Pakistan. And the aim of this instrument is, as you said, to provide Pakistan opportunities to access what is actually the largest market in the world, which is the EU market, actually the one which has the richest market in terms of economy, which is 500 plus citizens in the EU. So anything which is produced by Pakistan can enter free of duty and with no quota to the EU market. So that is one element, and I will come back to that. The other element is also to help Pakistan in implementing a number of international conventions, which will make what is produced in Pakistan even more attractive to the European Union consumers. I mean, for example, some of these international conventions are related to labor conventions. Obviously, if the EU consumers in Europe know that what is produced in Pakistan is produced in a country, Pakistan, which is respecting international labor standards, obviously it will also attract more people to buy from Pakistan. So that is something which is for us also very important in our relationship with Pakistan. When it comes to the trade volume, what we saw in 2014 is a sharp increase by 20% of what has been exported to the EU. We saw also an increase in euro term in 2015 by 13–14%. But I think that Pakistan is not using the full potential of this GSP Plus facility. Because when we look at 2014 and 15, what we have seen is actually that it has been diverted from other markets. So the total trade volume of Pakistan has not really increased. But since the EU market has become more attractive because there is no duty entering the market of the EU, exporters have diverted their export to the EU market. Okay, fair enough, but Pakistan now should take more, advantage of this GSP Plus. It should use the full potential of GSP Plus. It's an opportunity for several years, and Pakistan, and obviously the industry here, and the government should explore how they can utilize that at its best by, finding new avenue, new niches, new products to export to the EU. And the EU is already working with Pakistan on that, and will even more ready than to work with Pakistan, because we feel it's really a good opportunity for Pakistan and for the citizens and the economy of this country.
Exactly. So you are not satisfied with the current trade volume which is ongoing?
I'm not fully satisfied. No, I think we can do much better than that. And I say we, it's the EU and Pakistan on that. I think there is a need really to explore new avenues into that. And that is linked also to investment. Maybe we'll come to that later on. On investment from the EU to Pakistan as well. And it's probably also another issue we have to work on with Pakistan.
And now let's talk about the political and democratic relations between EU member states. Are you satisfied with the political collaboration?
I think what we have seen in 2013 is a new democratically elected government which followed another one, which I think is the first time in the history of Pakistan. So which is very good, which obviously very good, and we are pleased to see that now the democratization process is taking really roots inside Pakistan, and we are sure that it will continue, and we are here with Pakistan, working with the politicians of this country, working with the government, working with the election commission, working with the National Assembly, with the Senate,
civil society, and many,
all the different actors, to make sure that it will continue like that. It's a positive trend, a very positive trend, and we are here to support it.
Do you think that democratic future of Pakistan is bright, and electoral reforms that have taken place, and you are well aware that all political parties are the part of parliamentary committee on electoral reforms as well?
I mean, there is what we are eager to see now is what will be the new electoral reform package. We know that it is coming. It will be presented soon before the National Assembly, so we are eager to see what is inside. We have been told that there are a number of key elements for the reform of the election process in Pakistan, so we are now waiting to see what is into the package.
And Excellency, as you've seen that Pakistan economic situations indicating positive trend in recent times, so how EU can cooperate or help Pakistan regarding the efforts to consolidate the economy and trade?
I think obviously what we are doing with GSP Plus is our main tool to help economy in Pakistan and trade obviously in Pakistan, because it's good if you produce more for your domestic market, but it's even better if you produce more and that you can export other countries. So by opening, as I said before, opening the door of the EU market, we hope that we are contributing also, to foster economy here in Pakistan. What we are also trying to work with Pakistan on economic side is different projects we have here in Pakistan with a number of actors, either the industry, but also if I look, for example, at what we are doing with rural community, helping them, in developing their agriculture, I think we are also contributing to the development of economy here in Pakistan. Obviously, you have to have the government of Pakistan has to have a holistic approach. You have to, to work on different fronts to make sure that you can develop your economy. And as EU, we are trying, to support when we can.
And sir, how do you see the economic reforms introduced by this present government? And do you think that the economy is moving ahead and their direction is right? And my second part of the question, that what are the further future prospects of EU investment in Pakistan?
I think we have seen a number of steps taken by the government of Pakistan in terms of reform. I think there are probably more steps, I would say, to be taken to make sure to unleash, the potential of the economy here in Pakistan. So I guess there is a need still for further reforms. I know it's always complicated in any country to do that. They have always resistance and people who are not so happy. But I think it is badly needed because for me, we know also that Pakistan is facing security issues, especially with internal militancy here in Pakistan. And we know that usually these militant groups attract young people.
Yes.
Young people who are unemployed. So you have to make sure that you have an economy which is taking off to make sure that everybody can get a decent job and not, be diverted in its mind on other issues. So I think we see also the economic development as a key tool also to tackle other issues here in Pakistan, such as I said, the problem of security in Pakistan. So we hope that, as I said, the reforms have been already put in place, others will be coming, not only for the benefit of economy, but for the benefit of the entire country on all different aspects.
And sir, how EU can contribute in the field of education and health and social sector? And what are your future plans in this regard to extend your cooperation with Pakistan?
Actually, what we are focusing on is on education here in Pakistan as European Union. And we are working in the different provinces on education, providing direct support to the local governments to help them, developing their own education policies. And that, again, it's education is the basis for everything. If you don't have a well-educated population
exactly.
in this current world, in this current globalized world, you cannot achieve anything. So you have to have an education system which performs. And it's a big challenge for Pakistan. Pakistan is a large country with a large population, with a young population. So it's important that for the governments at provincial level, they have the resources to put into the education system and into a quality education system. I think quality is also a key word when you are talking about education. So we are doing that, and we are also working on that. Is directly linked to economic issues. We are also supporting the TVET sector, vocational training, here in Pakistan, to provide the right skills.
Skill development.
Exactly, skill development for the people to be in the best position to be employed by the industry. So to make sure that there is a good match between skills and the needs of the market, the needs of the industry. And TVET, I think, it's also key in terms of economic development.
And sir, I recently have seen you on media that you have visited Quetta, Peshawar, Karachi, Lahore.
Yes.
So you are very active ambassador, having a meeting with all chief ministers and politicians. So can you briefly tell us that how many projects that you launch in Balochistan, in KPK, in Sindh or in Punjab?
Actually, it's a bit difficult to say in terms of projects, but I think what I would like to say is more, we have three sectors where we are working. As I said, we are working in education and In education, we are trying as much as possible through the government, so supporting the policies of the government, on TVET as well. Another sector is rural development, so trying to help local communities living in rural Sindh, rural KP, or in Balochistan, to develop, their own capacities, develop their livelihoods. And the third one is on governance, and that includes, you were referring before about elections, so electoral reform, support to Parliament, to the National Assembly.
Capacity building?
Capacity building, mostly, yes. Working also with the government on the issue of human rights, which also are important, with the civil society as well. So we have many, I would say, many sub-sectors within the governance sector.
And just you mentioned about the situation of human rights.
Yes.
And we have seen that EU and the member states are very active regarding the monitoring and the protection of the human rights. So do you satisfy with the measures taken by this government regarding the human rights, and especially when this government set up a national commission on human rights, but we have seen that that commission is not so active by the government because they are not getting that incentive or the perks and privileges for anything code of conduct. So do you satisfy with the current government's measures regarding this?
If I well remember, the National Commission for Human Rights was set up in 2010, and it took 5 years until last year really to have the commission with members and with the start of a kind of office. It's clear that it's a positive step to have now, the people there. I know that there are still an issue of resources. We have been told by the government that they will get additional resources. We are discussing with the government also on how, from our side, we can, support the work of the Commission as well for human rights. But again, I think it's a very positive step because it's important for any country to have this kind of overseeing, institution, independent institution who can, monitor human rights situation. So that I think it's key. We do have that in Europe as well. We have the European Court of Justice on human rights, who is also looking, on what the different member states of the EU are also doing in terms of human rights. Another positive development has been the recent announcement of a national action plan on human rights by the government. So with a number of very positive elements into it. So now what we are obviously will be looking for and working with the government is on the implementation of the plan. So there are positive developments. I think it's key because, again, human rights is an important element when you are talking about security issue.
Yes.
You cannot expect to stabilize any country if you don't have, a proper record on human rights. Because if human rights are violated, you have people who are frustrated, who are unhappy, who will jump into the boat of opponents, and some of them can be also very, very dangerous, I would say. So you have to have a proper record on human rights to stabilize any country.
Exactly. We will continue our discussion after a short commercial break. Welcome back, viewers. Excellency, how do you see the Pakistan's sacrifices and effort to eradicate terrorism and militancy? As you have seen that Pakistan is facing terrorism from last many years, and 1,000 people, more than 60,000 people have been killed. So what kind of cooperation or assistance that EU is providing to Pakistan counter terrorism, or in pipeline any projects in future as well to assist Pakistan?
First of all, what I would like to say, not only we recognize, acknowledge, sacrifices by Pakistan, and especially the Pakistani army and security forces in fighting counter-terrorism. But I think now what we have to realize is clearly from the EU side, it's not a Pakistan only problem, or it's not, others' problem.
It's an international
It's
issue.
an international issue. It's a global issue. So it's a problem of everybody. And it's clear that we have all the people of goodwill actually have to work together to fight it. So what we have been doing with Pakistan so far as European Union, because we have also the European Union member states who are doing also some cooperation, with the government of Pakistan on counter-terrorism. But as EU, we have been, as an example, involved, and we're still involved in Lahore with this center, a kind of state-of-the-art center on forensic, the Punjab Forensic Science Agency, which is now has become the hub for all forensic issues, not only for Punjab but also for entire Pakistan, which is an excellent center where by not only you can help, I would say on normal cases, on normal police cases, but also very much on city cases, because it can bring to Pakistan this knowledge on expertise on forensic, and whereby trying to go really deep into many issues, including city cases. So that I would like to highlight and to commend the Punjab government to have set up this state-of-art center where we are collaborating with them.
And sir, one of the supplementary questions, that how do you see this military operation going on to eradicate terrorism from Sahel of Pakistan? And do you think that law and order situation is better than it was previous? How do you see the Pakistan role?
I think what is also important to see is that when you are working here in Pakistan, especially when you are working in Fatah against militant groups, is to have also a very close cooperation with your neighbor, with Afghanistan. Because obviously we know how the border is easy to cross, and it's important obviously to restore law and order in Fatah and other places in Pakistan, but also it's important that the people who manage also to escape, you can also coach them on the other side of the border. So you have also to have a close cooperation, working relationship between Pakistan and Afghanistan on city issues. There is no other option if you want to stabilize Pakistan and get rid of militants.
Exactly.
So that is, I know that both governments are working on that. There have been some attempts also, to have even closer relationship, but that I think it should continue between the two countries, the two governments.
And Excellency, how do you see the Pakistan role regarding peace and stability in this region? And do you think that the reconciliation efforts in Afghanistan will be successful with the help of Pakistan?
Look, I'm coming from a continent where we had centuries of war. I'm coming from a country, my home country is France, and my country has been fighting with our neighbor for centuries as well. And what is really striking for me coming to Pakistan and to the region is how this region is not connected. The disconnect you have in this country. It's probably one of the less integrated regions in the world. So Pakistan, Afghanistan, India, other countries have to tackle that. You have to make this region more connected. There is no other option for the stability of each of the countries. You are connected, you are so close to each other that there is no other way to make sure that your country will be not only stable, but also can develop and become more prosperous.
So now let's start to talk about the Pak-China Economic Corridor, which is called a real game changer in this region. So can I ask this question, that EU has any plan to invest in this project, or what are your views actually regarding this project?
Maybe first of all, on investments from the EU. Investment from EU countries in Pakistan is very low. Let's be clear. I mean, given the size of your country, of Pakistan, when you look at the investment from the EU, it's very, very low. So that we have to tackle that. We have to change, the perception of Pakistan back in Europe. I mean, I will be very candid. I mean, Pakistan does not have a good image back in Europe. So we have to change that. We have to explain, and it's my role, obviously as also EU ambassador, to explain back in Europe that Pakistan is changing. Pakistan is taking steps, to deal with the different challenges that Pakistan is facing. And it's for the best of Pakistan. So we have to change the narrative about Pakistan, first of all. And that we hope that by doing that, we will help Pakistan in attracting more investment here in the region and in the country. When it comes to CPEC, clearly it's an important development for Pakistan and for the region. It will help, I'm sure, I was talking about connectivity. I'm sure that it will help in enhancing connectivity, not only with China, but with all the sub-region, and I think it's what we should aim at. But where also it's important to come back to what we were saying before about GSP+, is how the two projects are, the two elements, complementary to each other. Obviously, CPEC will help any goods from China, but also from the region, from Pakistan, to go out of the region, and obviously maybe to reach the EU market. So hence why GSP+ also is important for CPEC. But what is important for Pakistan is to make sure that this CPEC project, at least on I'm talking about the connectivity part of it, I'm not talking about the energy part of it, talking about the connectivity part of the CPEC, that Pakistan makes sure that all its industry, all its regions are plugged into, because it should benefit everybody in the country. So that it's important to have a very smart and comprehensive plan to see how Pakistan is going to use the full potential of CPEC to develop its own industry for the benefit of everybody here in the country.
And so, can you explain that the migrant refugee crisis has become a very serious problem for EU, mainly Germany.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you see that this issue can be addressed of this crisis?
It's a migration issue, but it's a mix of refugee issue and illegal migrant issues. And obviously our societies back in Europe were not, I guess, probably prepared, to see a so large influx of migrants in a so short time. So hence, the different reactions we have had last year in Europe. What the EU and the member states have decided to do is to make sure that that we will reinforce the external borders of the European Union and make sure that people who are entitled to come into the EU because they are people in need of protection, refugees, can enter the EU. But the people who are illegally entering the EU for economic reasons will be returned back to their home countries. So that is what we are working on. It's what we have been putting in place. On the specific case of Pakistan, we have with Pakistan a readmission agreement where both sides have agreed to take back, their own citizens in case they are illegal migrating to the other side. We saw that it was signed in 2009 and implemented since 2010. It was well implemented in 2013-14. We saw that we had some difficulties in 2015, but early 2016 in Brussels we had an important meeting with the government of Pakistan when we have found, we have made more precise, the rules of the game, and since that we have had a number of flights coming back from Europe with returnees, and we have had no problem with Pakistan. So I think now we are on the right track for that. And obviously people who are coming back from Europe, illegal migrants from Pakistan coming back from Europe, are also benefiting from support actually provided by the EU in terms of reintegration here in Pakistan. But what is important, obviously, it's what we are doing now with Pakistan, is to work on the prevention side, to explain to the people that, you know, don't go to Europe illegally. We have needs in Europe in terms of skills.
Exactly.
We are, you know, an aging population, so we need young people to go to the EU, but with the right skills, and also very important that they go legally to the EU. That is important. I think the illegal path is not only costly for the families and for the people, but it's also very dangerous because it puts really people at risk, life of people at risk, and that I think we should prevent that.
And sir, as you know that Pakistan recently taken a very firm stance as far as deportees issues. So what is the level of understanding between Pakistan and EU member states, and what the measures that have been agreed upon in this regard?
As I said, I mean, now we have a good understanding. We have come to a clear agreement in terms of the procedures, how we should do, how the cases should be handled back in Europe, in European member states countries, and what are the, I would say, the requirements from Pakistan. So I think now we have no issue on the procedure itself. And as I said, I mean, the different flights we had for the last months have been handled very smoothly. So I think on this particular file, I'm quite pleased and optimistic that everything now is sorted out.
What are your specific plans to extend your cooperation, like you have talked in education and health and human rights, in electoral reforms, but some of other fields, as if I'm not aware, can you shed a light on the cooperation in future that you have in pipeline?
I mean, one of them I was referring to migration. It's one specific issue, migration, where we want also to enhance our cooperation with Pakistan on both preventing illegal migration and also working on more the legal migration. Let's take, for example, the issue of students going to the EU for master degree or PhD degree. So we have to see with, you know, Pakistan and with our member states how, you know, this kind of project can go smoothly, and, you know, that people are not prevented to go to the EU just because they want to go there to study. We have in our programs, we have the so-called Erasmus Plus, which is a scholarship program scheme, which is providing to students opportunities, Pakistani students, the opportunity to go to Europe for master degrees or for PhD. So it's something, you know, we would like really much to develop in Pakistan. So far, Pakistan has been very low in terms of the number of people, students going to the EU, given the size of the country, to study under this scholarship scheme. So we would like to develop that, for example. Another important issue for us, where we are engaging also with Pakistan and with some of our member states, is the issue of climate change.
Climate change.
Yes, it's obviously an important issue for Pakistan.
Yes.
Pakistan is one of the top countries we know that will be the most affected by the climate change in the next coming decades. So we have some experiences in the EU. And I think it's also where we would like to work with Pakistan to help Pakistan in tackling and, you know, trying to foresee what should be done to tackle the negative consequences of climate change in Pakistan.
But in this regard, what kind of cooperation or assistance that you can provide to Pakistan regarding these climate change?
Different issues. I mean, we can work on the mitigation side, we can work on the prevention side, we can work on transfer of technology, for example, green energy. How Pakistan, which is in a dire need of energy, can, you know, not only maybe work in developing, you know, some power plant based on fossil energy, fossil fuel, but also on the wind, on the solar panels. I mean, Pakistan, for example, is the first country in the world having its national parliament, which is powered by solar only, which I think it's a very strong signal which has been sent by the top politicians of these countries. So I mean, and then we can also, you know, help work with Pakistan on we have very good industry in Europe working on green energy, so it's something we can easily work with Pakistan on.
Sir, can you briefly tell us that what kind of cooperation that EU is providing Pakistan, especially in defense and as well as in energy?
It's an interesting question, because the EU, as European Union, we are not providing, for the time being, support to Pakistan. First of all, I think Pakistan has already a very strong military apparatus with a very strong army, which is, I think, very well organized. So I don't think that the EU would provide any support. I think it will be more a kind of cooperation between the EU on the Pakistani army on some issues. So we had 2 years ago a discussion between the army on the military side of the EU, and we plan to have new talks soon, I hope. But so far it hasn't developed too far, so it's something we are still working on.
And sir, we have seen that EU have concern and reservation on death penalty issues. Have
Yes.
you raised this issue with the government of Pakistan?
We raise this issue with the government of Pakistan on a regular basis. It's a clear element of our foreign policy as European Union. We are strong believers that death penalty is not helping in terms of sorting out number of cases, and it's certainly not helping out when it comes to as an element of fighting militancy. We have discussion with the government on that. I think at this stage what I could say is that we agree to disagree with Pakistan on the death penalty.
And sir, concluding remarks, how do you explain actually your current relation with Pakistan diplomatically, economically, and as trade and cultural exchange and high-level delegation exchanges? So do you satisfy with this current relationship with Pakistan?
I think we have done a lot of steps already with Pakistan in terms of strengthening our relationship. I do feel that we still have to do more steps. I think there are many issues where we could have a closer relationship with Pakistan, but I think we are already at a very good level in terms of cooperation with Pakistan. So again, I mean, for me, I'm very pleased to be in Pakistan. Appreciate very much in Pakistan the diversity of the country. I like, as you pointed before, I like very much to travel around Pakistan. So obviously, time to time, as a diplomat, I have some limits in what I would like to do. But at least I'm trying, you know, to use as much as possible traveling into these limits. But it's important for me also to go outside the, if I may say, the Islamabad bubble, and to go in the real Pakistan and meet, you know, with Pakistani citizens, with civil servant at more
All
local
segment
level.
of society, you know.
Exactly.
Yes.
And to see also the project, you know, the projects that we are funding, because at the end of the day, I am the one in Pakistan responsible for how we are spending the European taxpayer money. So it's important for me also to see exactly how we are doing that.
And any message that you want to give as ambassador to people of Pakistan?
I think what my message to the people of Pakistan will be to say that they have to be better known in the European Union. They have to look at the European Union as an ally for their development, for the democratic development. I know that there is a lot of relationship with one of our member states for historical reason, which is obviously the United Kingdom. I would encourage the citizens of the European Union, of Pakistan, also to know more about the European Union and other European Union member states, because they are also the friends or allies of citizens of this country.
Sir, thank you very much for your valuable remarks and very costly time that you've given us and spare for our channel. Thank you very much.
It was a
being with
pleasure.
us, sir.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you to you. Thank you.